Hello everyone and welcome to Killer Shrew Fans Killer Toy Reviews. Today we're going to be doing a review that is long overdue. Today we're going to be taking a look at this, the 2018 Deluxe Tyrannosaurus Rex by CollectA. Like many of CollectA's models, I slept on this one when it first came out, but back in April when I got a bug in my brain to start doing more CollectA reviews, I figured I had to pick up the Tyrant King for a look over. My first instinct was originally to get the fully feathered deluxe version, but lo and behold, I waited too long on that one and it is now obsolete. Yeah, CollectA really wants to stay up to date with their Rexes apparently, so they just swept that old version under the rug and started pumping out this one. So this was actually my second choice. Perhaps it's for the best, this one is more up to date than the 2015 offering, and there are some things that I really enjoy about this figure, and we're going to talk about all of it right here and right now on Killer Shrew Fans Killer Toy Reviews. So let's do this! So taking a look at the head of this Rex, one of the first things I notice is the shark eyes. CollectA opts to do this on a majority of their models, and it's something I don't personally care for, especially for a model like this. It really seems to have some character and life to it, then it gets slapped with these doll eyes, it's very disappointing. Outside of that, however, I really dig everything else. The larger scales of the face are very well sculpted. You can see this model does have the sort of nasal ridge of Tyrannosaurus, and like many of CollectA's deluxe offerings, it does have an articulated jaw which opens nice and smooth, but with enough resistance there to let you know that the hinge is quality. Once you open the mouth though, you get these weird black dots on the cheeks. Don't know why CollectA felt they needed to add the paint there, but whatever. They're always there, I guess, but they're less noticeable when the mouth is closed. The teeth are individually sculpted and look great. No lips on this Rex, which is something I don't care a great deal about either way. What matters to me is if it's done well. But I certainly think this Rex still looks great without them if you're someone who would be put off by their absence. The tongue is pink, no gloss, which I think is something many of CollectA's models are lacking. Something else worthy of note, you can't really tell with the angle I'm filming at, but this Rex does have binocular vision and it looks great from the front. Take my word on it. Moving down the length of the body, this is kind of where the figure suffers in my opinion. The scale detail on this model feels very inorganic, very carved out and uniform. The muscle tones and proportions and shapes all seem to have been handled quite well, but there's something about how these scales are done that just does not work for me. I feel like it's lacking the more natural look of some of CollectA's other sculpts, which is unfortunate. Couple that with the fact that the skin impressions that spurred CollectA to release a new Rex in the first place were very small and fine scales, whereas the scale detail here is quite noticeable and very heavy-handed. Because of that, this model feels like a very poorly painted Rebor offering with its overuse of texture. But you know, it is what it is, and I certainly don't think it's awful, just not as appealing to look at as some of the other models from the company. Now we need to talk about those feathers. The original Deluxe Rex was fully feathered, but with the new discovery of the scale impressions, CollectA decided to scale back, pun fully intended, the feathers and isolate them to a mohawk that runs from the back of the neck to about a third of the way down the tail. This is a pretty sensible decision on CollectA's part. None of the impressions found originated from the back to my knowledge, so it's safe to say that if T-Rex had feathers, the back is where they would be. I think that there is a nice flow to them, but there's something about how they are all clumped together that makes them feel, I don't know, chunky? Like chunky, clumpy feathers, if that makes any sense, and not at all like fine, hair-like filamentous feathers. You can see the hair-like motif has been implemented, but how it's all clustered together, it might bug some people. The toe claws are painted a dark gray color, and there are some lovely plate scales running up the backs of the toes and up the shins. There is a weird webbing between the toes, but if that contributes to the balance, then I guess I can swallow it. And like I said before, the musculature on this model is handled quite well. The legs look very toned and powerful on this animal, which is great. The arms are appropriately short, but still have some beef to them, and feature the same gray claws as the toes. Moving along the underbelly, you can see there is a difference in style on the scales down here. They're much more rectangular in nature. You can also get a better sense of what I meant by talking about the webbed feet there. And there you have the CollectA logo, and just past that, the trademark blown out cloaca of CollectA, which, come on, is that really a detail worth celebrating, CollectA? Now, for the pose of this animal. This is easily my favorite element about this model. It's something completely different. It feels very unique and lifelike without being extreme, and with the hinged jaw, you can go from having this Rex scenting the wind on a hunt to bellowing a warning call as it patrols its territory. It's wonderful. It is simply wonderful. Fluid, perfectly balanced, and unlike any Rex on the market, or at least any that come to mind. Other companies, and I'm sure you know exactly who I am talking about, should take note. You can make something unique without making it extreme. There are a plethora of poses you can put models in beyond the standard walking pose that still feel lifelike. You can have them scratching their face, lying down, or sitting. Now I'm wanting CollectA to make another Rex pose to be scenting the ground. That and this would look great together. A hunting pair. The door is wide open, and I want to commend CollectA for taking this Rex in a completely new direction. And of course, one of the biggest talking points about this model is the paint job. You can see that the body is a tan color with a cream underbelly and brown shading and washes that make the scale details pop, probably more than they need to. They already pop enough, my goodness. That's all well and good, but that's not really the problem here. A lot of people aren't huge fans of the sort of Christmas motifs CollectA have given their Rexes. You can see that the feathers are done in red and green with a random white stripe thrown in for the mix. Speaking of random, the black on the face is a bit off-putting, but it's not nearly as distracting as those vibrant feathers. I don't personally hate it. I can understand that CollectA wanted to give the feathers an eye-catching appearance, perhaps to suggest a male specimen with this model, but I also get where people are coming from when they say they don't love it. I think there are better routes to go. With the tan coloration of the midsection, I think simply coloring the feathers in the style of a lion's mane would have looked very cool. Maybe a bit less flashy, but fitting. As is, there's a little clashing going on, but it doesn't kill it for me. In fact, I even think the red and white would look great with the earthy tones of the body. It's really that green that's doing this thing in, isn't it? But honestly, after saying everything I have about this model, I find I can look past all of the negatives simply because of that awesome pose. Now for the size. It's a large model measuring in at around 13.5 inches long, or about 33.5 centimeters. From the floor of my review space up to the top of the snout, the model measures in at around 6.25 inches off the ground, or just under 16 centimeters. I know it's kind of blown out, but take my word for it. For size comparison, I've gone ahead and brought in the still reigning champion of best feathered Rex in my personal opinion. It's the 2017 Safari Ltd Tyrannosaurus Rex, and you can see these two are similar in size, but the CollectA model edges it out both in length and in height. That being said, the Safari Rex more than makes up for it in bulk and sculptural detail. Say what you will about how it's dated, it still looks fantastic and just kind of shows why I don't pick up CollectA figures as often as I get Safari ones. Next up for size comparisons, I've placed the CollectA Rex next to the gold standard of T-Rex model comparisons. It's the Papo Squatting Rex, which is like a required model for collectors for some reason. Everyone and their poodle has a version of this model, or at least has seen it once, and that's why it makes such a good size comparison. I can't say I fault its popularity. The detail on it is fantastic, and the paint job is pitch perfect. Something else to keep in mind is these two models are actually pretty similar in terms of price points, so do with that what you will. But let's even the playing field and bring in some CollectA figures. First up is the Deluxe Tyrannosaurus, which I just reviewed on the channel. Link will be in the description below. You can see the top of the horns of the Tyrannosaurus come up to just under the Rex's full height, but the Rex is much longer. Also, the styles are much more complementary with these two, let me tell you. And finally, for size comparison, here is the CollectA Deluxe Carnotaurus, a fan favorite for sure, and easily one of my personal favorite CollectA figures to date. This comparison also shows how very overdone the detail is on the Rex when compared to the work of the Carnotaurus. Something else I need to note is that the Carno seems a bit too large to be in scale with this Rex, if that is something that is very important to you. But hopefully all of this gives you an idea of the size you can expect from the Rex. So there you have it, guys and gals. That is going to do it for my look at the 2018 Deluxe Feathered Tyrannosaurus Rex by CollectA. Overall, I do think this model is quite nice. I think they did a lot of things right with it, and it's a good middle ground for those out there still clinging to feathered Rexes, and for those who believe that the skin impressions disprove the notion of a fully feathered Tyrant King. The paint job, it is what it is. I can understand CollectA's desire to maintain continuity between their Rexes, but it could have been handled better from the start. CollectA has always been hit and miss with their paint schemes. I very often struggle with what it is they present to us, but sometimes they really get it right. So hopefully if they decide to revamp the Rex line down the road, they can figure out a better color scheme this time around. The detail might be a bit overdone in my opinion as well, but I still think if you're a Rex fan, this is one of the better offerings at a low-end price point. It might not be able to hold a candle to some of the Rexes that came before it in the artistic department, but that pose, man, that pose really puts this one over the edge for me, right into the I dig it realm. It is the saving grace of this figure in my opinion. As always, I want to know what you guys think. Do you own this one yet? Are you going to pick it up? What is your favorite Tyrannosaurus Rex model of all time? Drop a comment down below, and as always, thank you so much for tuning in today. I hope you enjoyed my review, and I hope to see you again in the next one. Bye-bye now.